Welcome back, my fellow Zambians, to the 11th of our weekly conversations. In under 2 weeks, the country goes to the polls. Tonight, we speak of our young people, not as a problem to be managed, but as the greatest asset this country owns, and the one we have handled most carelessly. Good evening, Your Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema. Good evening, my fellow Zambians. Tonight, we speak of young Zambians. The Electoral Commission of Zambia has certified over 8.7 million voters for the 13th of August. Of those, about 4 million are young people. That is 46 in every 100. Nearly half of this electorate is young. They are no longer waiting at the door. They are rattling the door. And Mr. President, as you already know, they cannot be hoodwinked. Some have telephones, and more importantly, they have each other, and they have memories. The United Nations puts the middle age of our population at about 18 years. Half of Zambia has not yet turned 19. Roughly 75 in every 100 of us are under 35. We are not an old country with a young problem. We are a young country that has been governed as though it were old. Mr. President, let us name the challenge honestly, because pretending is the first failure. The Labor Force Survey of 2023 put youth unemployment at 26 in every 100 nationally, 33 in every 100 in our towns, and 46 in every 100 on the Copper Belt, which, as you know, has been the beating heart of Zambian work for 100 years. The World Bank records that same year, about 29 in every 100 young Zambians between 15 and 24 were in no school, in no training, and in no job. The International Labour Organization records that roughly 76 in every 100 employed Zambians work informally, without contract, without pension, without protection. And your government, Mr. President, has not been sitting still. On Youth Day in Solwezi, you launched the Imisepela Opportunities Platform, and by May, more than 215,000 young Zambians had enrolled. The Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission received about 65,000 applications for funding through it, of which over 41,000 met the age requirement, and it funded 1,622 young people with 15 million kwacha. Those 1,622 are real. Some household is eating tonight because of them. But, Mr. President, we must not forget that for every young Zambian funded, about 25 eligible ones were not. Mr. President, I do not say this to belittle a good beginning. I say it because a door opened by 1 inch onto a crowd of 10,000s will not hold. The crowd is far much bigger than the door. Your Excellency, allow me to be direct. I invite you to receive my directness as it is meant, in respect. There is a habit in our politics, in our churches, in our boardrooms, and yes, even in our homes, of speaking about young people as if they were empty vessels waiting for us to fill them. We call them the leaders or change makers of tomorrow. We say they lack discipline. We say they are lazy. We say they are not well cultured. We shake our heads at them and we feel wise. That head shaking is an excuse and we should put it down. Look honestly at the conditions in which a young Zambian survives today. She rises before dawn. She buys stock on credit. She reads a market by instinct. She manages cash flow with no bank. She feeds a household on margins a trained accountant or economist could call impossible. She does all this without electricity and the internet for most part of the day. Mr. President, that is not indiscipline. That is genius, uncertified, and unpaid. Our task is not to teach that young woman how to survive. She has already taught herself, and better than we could. Our task is to formalize her genius, to build the registration, the credit, the training, the market access, and the plain rule of law that turn survival into enterprise and enterprise into work for others. A seed does not need instructions. It needs soil. We have been handing out speeches where we should have been handing out soil. Your Excellency, let us listen to 4 voices from 4 corners. They will not speak. You and I will listen. Brian Tembo, a graduate of the Copperbelt University, 2 years out, 73 applications for interviews. He sells airtime at a junction in Solwezi. He registered on Imisepela the day it launched. He is still waiting. Memory Daka sells tomatoes in Mtendere, Lusaka. She did not finish secondary school. She has never heard of Imisepela, and she has no smartphone with which to reach it. She asks one question only. Will my daughter go further than I did? Chanda, 24 years old. He repairs telephones from a wooden store he built himself in Nakonde. He taught himself from videos whenever the network allowed. He has trained 4 other young men. He appears on no register of enterprise anywhere in our country. Nobody in authority has ever asked him his name. And the family of a young miner, 27 years old, who died at Kakawa in Mufumbwe. He had a wife and 2 children. He was not a criminal. He was a young Zambian without work who heard there was gold in the ground and walked toward it because no other door had opened. Mr. President, other countries carrying our same burden have made bold choices, not perfect choices, bold ones. Rwanda began Youth Connect in 2012. It is not chiefly a fund. It is a conversation with a budget attached to it. Young people meet ministers, companies, banks, investors in public, on television and in halls. And those meetings end in commitments that are written down. Its own ministry reports more than 36,000 direct jobs over 10 years and 24,000 young people drawn into national policy dialogue. Hear what Rwanda understood. The dialogue came first. The jobs followed the dialogue. Kenya faced the connectivity problem we face. Its answer was not to wait for the internet to arrive. Through the Ajira digital program, government partnered with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance and built physical centers, more than 100 of them, where a young person with no phone and no data can walk in, sit at a machine, be trained, and find online work. By the middle of 2024, nearly 391,000 young Kenyans had been trained. A building solved what the network could not. Its apprenticeship law requires medium and large companies to fill between 5 and 15 in every 100 of their posts with young apprentices. And let me be honest with you, Mr. President. Enforcement has been weak. By 2019, only about 27 in every 100 employers were meeting the quota. But the principle stands and the direction is right. Brazil decided that training the young is not the charity of business. It is the duty of business. Indonesia trusted the judgment of the young person. Its pre-employment card gives a young person a voucher, lets them choose their own training from an approved market, and pays a small incentive on completion. More than 17 million had passed through it by 2023, and researchers found those who received it earning about 10 in every 100 more than those who missed out. Government did not decide what each young person needed. It let them decide, and it paid for the choosing. None of these countries is a paradise. Rwanda still carries high youth unemployment. Kenya's centers do not reach everyone in the country. Brazil's law is under-enforced. Indonesia's training quality has been fairly criticized. I offer them not as models to copy, but as evidence that boldness is possible for nations holding far less copper than we hold. Mr. President, you are an elder in the church, so you know this story better than I can tell it. 5,000 hungry people on a hillside. The Lord asks how they will be fed. The disciples calculate and they despair. Then Andrew speaks, almost apologizing. There is a lad here who has 5 loaves and 2 small fish. But what are they among so many? A boy, the youngest in that whole crowd, and the least, the one nobody thought to ask. And his lunch, the bread usually reserved for the poor, became a miracle that fed thousands with 12 baskets left over. Here are the 3 things in it, Mr. President. First, the answer to the nation's hunger was already in the hands of the young. Second, someone had to think to look there. Third, the boy had to be willing to hand it over, and the Lord had to be willing to receive it from a child. And Paul writes to a young man leading an older congregation, "Let no one despise your youth, but be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love, in spirit, in faith, in purity." Not wait your turn. Not you will lead tomorrow. Be an example now. And here is the leadership responsibility given to Simon Peter once more. Feed my lambs. The lambs of Zambia number more than 4 million on the register alone. But hear the responsibility fully, Mr. President. Do not ask only how to feed them. Ask what they are already holding that you and the country could learn from and receive. Mr. President, here are a few thoughts that might trigger ideas of what you can do. Sit with the young people and not in front of them. Convene a listening table in each of our provinces, chaired by young people themselves and not ministers. Government attends to listen and to answer, not to open and to leave. Publish what was said and edited, and publish what government will do about it. Our young do not need another gathering where they clap and sing praises to the leadership. They need a table where they are heard. Put young people inside the room where the decision is made. Not one seat as a decoration. Appoint young Zambians to the boards of the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, of our utilities, of the pension funds, of the university councils. Give them a vote, not a photograph. Turn the Constituency Development Fund into an engine for young enterprise, with a young person on every ward committee that decides it, and publish every quarter by constituency how many young people applied, how many were funded, and how many are still waiting. The number that matters is not what was disbursed. It is how long a young Zambian waits between knocking and being answered. Build the walk-in places, as Kenya did. A room in every district with power, machines, connection, and a trainer. Not only an application for those who already hold telephones, but a door for those who do not. Make partnership real rather than ceremonial. Let every mining license, every large government contract, and every commercial farm of size carry an apprenticeship obligation with a published number attached to it. Business is not being asked for charity. Business is being asked to build the workforce it will itself need in 10 years. And in person, get to the families of young Zambians who have died in artisanal mining, beginning with Mufumbwe. The president standing at the door of grieving mothers does more for youth policy than 1,000 speeches. Mr. President, if these efforts do not produce immediate results, you are not laboring in vain. These efforts will find another channel, and fruit will eventually bear. We are where we are because elders looked out for us. We cannot keep telling the young stories about our own youth. We must hand them soil because they are not the leaders of tomorrow. They are the ones we have been waiting for. And as you go to bed tonight, Your Excellency, I have a few questions for you to ponder. Who in your government is answerable by name for the more than 40,000 eligible young Zambians who applied through Imisepela and are still waiting? When did you last sit unscripted and without cameras with a young Zambian who has not yet found her first job? What does the new dawn mean to someone who was 13 when you took office and is 18 now, voting for the very first time this month? Until next week, Your Excellency, hold the following with me. May we stop calling young people the leaders or change makers of tomorrow when they are already here. May we hand out soil where we have been handing out speeches. May we be the pillars that others were for us. May we remember that a nation which fails its young has not failed them alone. It has failed the spirit and aspiration of one Zambia, one nation. May God hold this country with both hands. Good night, Your Excellency. Good night, Zambia.